Are we live? We live?
All right, we are live. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 9. I am the Goat Father, the producer for Rantcore Steve. Speaking of which, he's bulking up for a Hulk, and it's Rantcore Steve. Say hello, sir.
Howdy, everybody.
He makes it, he's brewing it, and guess what? At the end of the night, you're gonna love the side effects. It's Jeff, the Lost Wanderer. Say hello.
Greetings, everyone. Hope everyone's having a wonderful snowy evening.
And of course, we have the man that decided to fight evil. He is in his own workshop of good, the Comic Relief Crusader. Hello, sir.
You're muted.
I say again, good day.
Ooh. How you guys doing? How is everyone in the chat doing? I am glad to be here and glad to see everybody in the chat. Sorry about the little technical difficulties. We had some little problems on our end. We had to make a new link to the show. But if you want to share, get everyone in here. It's going to be a fantastic time. I know Andy's going to possibly show up a little later, and then around the 7-hour mark. Geez, we're not doing that long of a stream. Around 7 p.m. my time, Canadian Spider-Man might be stopping by, so that's going to be awesome. It's going to be fulfilled, fun, and all that stuff. But let's get down to the nitty-gritties. How was your guys' week? I know there's storms. Some people got with snow and rain. But Jeff, how's your week been?
This has probably been the healthiest week I've had in about 3 years. I don't know quite how to handle it, actually. So I'm feeling good. I'm having a drink, and it's going to be good.
Nice. And Comic Relief, Mike, how's your week been?
My week is so far so good, been full of mirth and merriment and stress, but a good stress. And I'm enjoying my patented Canadian Tim Hortons coffee right now. So I'm doing swell.
Oh, Goat, how's your week been?
You know, I can't really complain. I finally got some more stuff. You may hear in the short future that the rig or the beast is getting some serious upgrades. My vehicle might be as well. So it's pretty dang good week, man. I can't complain. How about yourself?
It's been a little crazy with rain and everything, but it's just working on some little projects with Gary and just keeping ourselves busy. And my wife, her power went out at her job, but it's because she lives where it's kind of getting hit a little harder. But it's been fun. It's been a little stressful with the rain coming in and not being able to get much sleep, but I've been able to watch some shows and just kind of relax a little bit. It's a little stressful, but I think once the storm passes and we start doing normal work and actually start doing some fun stuff, then there'll be less stress. But that's life, man. That's life. So, but I did watch. I'll say this one thing before we move on. I watched Jurassic Dominion, or whatever you call that stupid name. And my wife,
Dominion?
Or yeah, Jurassic World, whatever the last one was. And my wife, we were drinking some whiskey, and my wife doesn't really give funny comments. And she let the whole movie's ends up being about locusts. And there's a scene where you see locusts flying and they're on fire. And you see the dinosaurs running around. And all my wife could think of was, and she said it out loud, she's like, flashbacks. And I was like, that's the best joke I've ever heard. So But it's such a good one.
That okay? You got to give her some serious props to that.
I will, man. My
Yeah.
wife, if you're watching, props to you. I always got jokes, but she beat me. She had the best. I told Garrett, he's like, "What's this for?" So I had to explain it a little bit. He's like, "That's funny. And I'm not stealing that joke. That's her joke." But
I'm betting you want to go ahead and move us along to "Don't Be That Guy," correct?
oh yeah. So on our favorite topic and our favorite segment that we stopped 1 week and people are like, "What the hell, man?" We do a little thing called "Don't Be That Guy," and we do probably about 3 to 5 simp or beta tweets, and we changed it up to now instead of just bashing them completely, we give them hope at the end, and we approach it of like, "Hey, look, we're gonna make fun of this, but here's a better way of approaching this." So we're gonna get into the first tweet, and I think I've seen 2 of them. I don't know any of the other ones because I've been so busy I haven't been able to find any, but I know the goat has found a couple. And okay, so this is a new one. All right. I've never seen this one. Give me a second so I can look. Not ever, but all right. Face back. All right. So this cheeky Mikey 2000, way to go. That's definitely a guy who has weird names. When it comes to you, definitely both. All right. I've never seen this tweet. This is so stupid. This chick drives me nuts. Also,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
I don't want to get into too much details of the drama that's behind her, but you know, it's her own damn fault for getting these tweets and these comments. This guy, when it comes to you, definitely both. Like, I don't think any woman wants to hear that unless you're married or you're dating. I think those are the only 2 situations you can kind of say that. If you're dating, okay, cool, you're complimenting your girlfriend, or if you're married, you compliment your wife. I do with my wife all the time. I hate to see her go, but I like to watch her leave, kind of situation, you know. And if you're gonna compliment a woman, I would recommend, hey, your hair looks nice. Flip it on her. She may not see this, she may, but flip it on her. Psychology here. Just compliment the hat, the hair. Just flip it on her so she feels like, oh, there's actually someone who's complimenting me, not looking at who I am. Like, she's attractive, but it's like, you know, to me, it's like I would be like, yeah, your hair's nice, but I would probably never say that. But you know, what do you guys think about this tweet? I've never seen this one. This one's weird.
Yeah, that one. I mean, I'm going to pretend it's not Amaranth, who really does push the sexual aspect of her streaming.
Yes.
No.
Wait,
Just
what?
a little. I agree with you, Steve. You compliment, you know, the hair, the hat. You know, you could say, "Hey, you're looking good today." You know, something along that nature. You know, even taking it to the opposite, sometimes you'll see. I know with my ex-wife, she had problems. She had a slightly crooked front tooth, and she would never smile in her pictures because of it. So even if you don't, or in this case, if you know the person even a little bit, and you know that maybe they don't like a certain aspect of their own person, go ahead and you know, give her compliments around that area, and it will help. You know, they'll look at you and see that you're paying attention. You're have listened to them in the past, and you're acknowledging that you find a lot of about them attractive and interesting.
Yeah. What do you think, Mike? What do you think of her front or back?
Let me go ahead and fix this real quick.
God. Well, I mean, obviously it's for, it's for clicks and likes, obviously, right? So you automatically already know that it's obviously for attention. And she knows where most of her money comes from, which is from, guys that obviously, that she knows that watch her. basically. So I'm sure by now, obviously, she knows she's going to get responses for this. So you know what? Yeah, and like I said before, if it's your wife or if it's your girlfriend or fiance or whatever, yeah, you can pretty much definitely get away with something like this, right? Because I mean, hey, I do it to my wife too, right? So, um, if you were to say this out loud out in the public, oh boy, there's a sexual harassment case waiting to happen. So, but it's the internet and everybody's a keyboard warrior, so it comes as no surprise that a response like this happens.
Yeah. Let's get to the next tweet and we'll dive into that. That one isn't as creepy. Okay, this one I did see. This is hilarious. So Pokemon, whatever her stupid name is, bangs or side part. Okay. And again, I don't care if people want to post a picture of themselves. I did it at the gym. I did it as a joke of like, hey, I'm with the gym with Gary. If you guys have seen it on Twitter. And then I got roasted and I went along with it. And that was the whole point of it. I set myself up. But this guy, are you happy with your last name or are you ready for a change, baby? All right. Here, let's go back to the whole being creepy.
Let it out, Steve.
Don't fucking do it. I don't know how much, or how far I can explain this. Don't be creepy. If you're going to leave a comment, just compliment them because she's just asking like bangs or side. That's it. You don't have to compliment anything else. She's setting herself up by wearing something skimpy and all that stuff, showing her belly, whoopie doo, ha ha ha. But say like, yeah, it looks good. I like both. You could say that, or you could be like, I like the way your hair looks right now. It's yeah, those are all fine. Or come up with something that's a little bit more complimentary instead of just totally veering off and just saying like, do you like your last name? First off, I don't know if that's her last name. If it is, boy, that's a fun one to say in jury duty. Oh, crap. But, it's this whole, if you're going to say something to a woman online, which I recommend don't do, it's better to do it in person. But if you're just going to say like, do you like your last name? Well, I can change that for you, baby. Well, I guarantee you're going to get a big fat no or a block or something like that. What do you guys think of this weirdo guy? And I don't know if Go put the picture in there of the guy. That's my favorite part. The guy with the like grill that's like ching. I don't know. I don't know if did you put that in there or did he put that in there?
No, he actually put the GIF in there, and I purposely stopped it on that frame because it was hilarious.
It's funny. At least it's a joke. Like I get that part. That's nice. Funny. But it's like, you just there's a point in your life when you realize, why do I still looking for these tweets? Because they're just so cringy. But what do you guys think of this?
Well, let's see. I don't know, but it's kind of cheesy, if you know what I mean. And, they kind of stinky Limburger cheese, just it is full of the cheesy.
Provolone or mozzarella?
The stinkiest you could get, so probably provolone.
Goat cheese.
Yeah, goat cheese.
I don't know the smell of cheeses. But how do you think this guy should have reacted? What's a better way to approach? Because I guarantee you would be creeped out if you posted a picture of like whatever left of your hair you got going on. Because I got none. Like if you're like, what do you think of this or that? No, and then there's a chick saying like, well, I can do this.
See, my problem is I would be brutally honest, and in the picture with the skimpy outfit, I would say, I like your hair on the left because it goes with your outfit better.
Yeah, that's
leave it at that. Leave it at that.
But
let's move on to this one. I think you guys will get a kick out of this.
Okay, yeah. So we'll get to this. So it's another Pokemon ball. I don't know Pokemade. I don't
It's
know what
mane,
these.
pokes
I think it's
mane like mane of a
Pokemon.
horse.
Yeah.
Try harder. All right, so she says, "Out of sight, but on your mind," which that's the stupidest thing ever. At least she has a cat in there. You are most definitely on my mind. I wish I was the cat. Wink, wink, heart, heart, heart. Okay. Do you, what
That
happened?
sums it up.
Like, so there's my generation, like the late '80s generation and on. All right, the last frontier of like normal people. But then it's like somehow we just got all weird. But then there's like the few years after, like the 91, 90, 91, 92, 93, that realm right there, they just went kind of weird of like, we don't know how to function in reality. And this is so weird. I wish I was the cat. I don't, you are most definitely on my mind. You know, that's not, to me, that's not weird at all. It's the,
No.
I wish I was the cat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just no. Just
I will say though, that is one fine looking pussy cat.
What's new, pussycat? Whoa, whoa, whoa! What's new, pussycat? Oh God! I
mean, you're not wrong.
So
It's,
you know what, dude? Wish away. You're never gonna be that cat. So
you can wish upon a star and it ain't gonna happen, buddy.
that's right.
Although I've heard the lottery is up to like what 1.4 billion, so maybe he has a chance.
Oh, maybe, yeah. Better wishing.
If I had, let's say I
dreams are
posted,
gonna explode.
let's say I posted a tweet of a picture of me doing something, I don't know, cut wood or something like that, and there's a girl who goes, "I just won 1.4 billion dollars in the lottery. I want you." I'm gonna say no.
Yeah.
We got something kind of identical. Let's go ahead and check this one out.
Yes, this one you showed me. I got a kick out of this one. This one is insane. And oh Jesus, these Twitch girls and OnlyFans girls break up with your girlfriend. Well, that's a fat no. But this guy, the desperation in this guy, I would never break up with you, silly.
God.
Like,
first of all, who uses
I like the cat.
silly?
Is it a dog in the background? I don't know. But
I don't know. It looks like a poodle.
I thought it was a footrest.
we're not critiquing. We should do a segment where we're going to critique your own photos. I don't think people understand that our show, whatever you say on Twitter or anything, we'll find it and we'll post it. But
we will find you.
This one is, she's crazy. Break up with your girlfriend. You know, I think I'm good.
You know how this response sounds? Seriously? I would never break up with you, silly. Like, this is how it sounds like to me. I swear to God. When I'm reading that, it's like that's how it sounds. I would never break up with you, silly. Like,
I read it as it puts the lotion in the basket.
Or that.
That's
welcome, Andy Masterson to the show.
Andy.
Hello,
Andy.
gentlemen. How is everyone?
We're doing good. I'm surviving.
Hello.
I will say this. I forgot to mention this. I started going to the gym this week, and I am sore. I'm like really sore, and I get there, and my old boss is there, and he starts following me, and starts asking me questions like, "This is not creepy at all." But we'll talk about that. How to like the gym stuff. But Andy, I wanted to get your take on this before we get into the next thing. This tweet here, she has herself in a certain outfit, and she says, "Break up with your girlfriend." and the guy says, "I would never break up with you, silly." Like, to me, she sounds a little crazy. I can't. There's a thing where you can kind of see like the crazy eyes. I can't tell by her eyes if she's crazy or not. But this tweet, she sounds a little crazy. But this guy sounds like he stalked her one too many times. I would never break up with you, silly. What is your like? What would be some advice you would tell this guy if you saw him in person and you could sit down with him with a cup of espresso or cappuccino?
Okay. All right. I'm a little old school, and I'm a little cynical, maybe a lot cynical. Uh, so I think that um, unless you've met someone in person, it's fine. Like you can meet online, which is great. Like I know a lot of people that have met online and have made things work pretty well. But you don't start doing all this like goo goo gaga crap and stuff like that with everybody until like you're you get to know each other. Okay, so now I feel that public displays of affection are kind of tacky. I think that like all this stuff of like if you're sitting there, oh you're so cute, no you're so cute, no you're so cute. It's like that it's forced. It's not organic. It's not like real people don't do this. And if you're doing that, that's kind of reaffirming something. So my feeling for this guy is that he's under the delusion that half the women on this planet, half the humans on this planet are not female. There's plenty of them out there. It's not that hard to go meet one and talk to one. The big issue is confidence, and this what he's doing is it's very easy to be brave online. We see it all the time, like when people like mouth off to people that they would never do so in person, but they have courage online. Well, that's to me that was the thing that it took me a long time to learn was having the confidence to just walk up to a girl and be able to talk to them, and that's what I think a lot of the problems are stemming from. Of course, like there's a safety in the anonymity of the net. Remember a few years ago, I had talked to a younger kid that I teach because like my daughter, she was like junior in high school. She was a gymnast on the honors list in the band and um, bubbly personality, cute, and she's like, no guys are asking her out. So I said to this kid, like, like I'm not under this illusion that like like Hollywood's going to be coming in and trying to recruit my daughter. I mean, she does come from this. So I'm not expecting her to win like model awards. I think she's adorable, like, and she gets lots of attention, but like she's not like um uh Jennifer Lawrence. Of course, if she were, like, we'd be set. But anyway, um, so he says to me that, like, well, you don't understand how it is these days. Like, when you were young and you went up and asked a girl out and she said no, you would have to deal with that humiliation for, like a couple of days and she might tell a couple friends. Well, nowadays, like, if she shoots you down, which a lot of them learn that, like, this is clout. This is like they can use this as sort of like ammo. Oh, look at me. I get attention, stuff like that by shooting this guy down. Now, this guy gets humiliated, and within seconds, the whole school knows about it. So everybody's laughing at him. So it's discouraging men from being courageous like that to, like, which is ironic because if you would just do that, if you would just go out and do that, you would be more successful because, like, yeah, you know what? Once you get past that idea about, like, own the room, and this guy isn't learning that lesson. He's retreating to where it's safe. Nothing worthwhile comes without a risk. And you're going to have to risk that humiliation and man up and go talk to a real girl, not some chick online who's like, and look, if a girl is posting pictures like that online, okay, number one, She's probably single, and doing it for money. She's got a way like an OnlyFans or something like that. That's, somebody's going to pay her money. If it's not like a paid model and it's some dude catfishing you, that's another thing. Number two, girls that are in a relationship. I don't know too many guys that are going to be too happy with their girlfriend putting pictures like that up on the web. So if she's in a relationship and the guy's okay with it, now she's probably there's some issues there, because you should be getting enough attention from the person you're with that you don't want to do that. So long story short, any guy who's fallen for this is deluded. He's kind of sad, and not facing up to reality. This is not going to be a beautiful women do not have to advertise on the internet to get a date. Confident, strong men don't have to pick up girls that are advertising on the internet for a date. There's plenty of women out there. Go meet a real one. Go meet one who you can actually sit down and have a conversation with. And you're going to do that from probably most of the regions you're in, because you have a lot of things in common just because of where you live. It's going to be a lot harder to have something in common with somebody whose life experience is completely different than you. So that's my impression of this guy, is he's he's dropping all these compliments and stuff like that. She's like, oh, you would, if you were my boyfriend, you would never be my boyfriend, because if you would buy me this thing. Oh, here's some money. No, I can't take that from you. I insist. Okay. And then boom, there goes your money. And yeah. So bad situation right here if you're actually falling for it, and don't do that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we're going to get into a new thing. So throughout the episodes, we're going to communicate to everyone in the chat. So we're going to, if you have any questions, there's going to be 3 slots that we have during the shows now that if you have questions you want us to answer, we can answer them, kind of just cold answers. And that's what we're going to do for the next few minutes. Carla Burton, what is catfishing? Well, if I pretty much made an account and was someone that I wasn't, and I was trying to bait a guy into liking me, and kind of it's like a humiliation. What do you guys think of this?
I think Douchebag Kyle and SP4H have really nailed the answer.
Yeah. Douchebag Kyler said catfishing is pretending like blah 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 blah. I'm just learning how to read today. Wow, guys. Wow. Way to go.
Congrats.
Sure.
Catfishing is pretending like online to be someone you're not, usually in the context of online dating, using a fake pic, lying about your stats, job, etc. I've been catfished before, and it didn't go so well for the other person. I was like, nothing like violent or anything. I just insulted the person. It's usually a big nerd. SP4H says catfishing. It's when you engage in an online relationship having never met the other person, and they turn out to be, put nicely, a completely different person to who they say they were.
Yeah, and there's different degrees of catfishing. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So one night, I'll get my senior guys together, and on Friday nights once a month, and we beat the crap out of each other, and then we go across the street to the bar. And so I got 2 of the guys. One guy's 5'6", the other guy's 5'5", and they were talking about their experiences with online dating, and all these girls are like, well, if the guy's not 6 foot, forget it. So my buddy Brent's like, he's like, all right, I'm going to put almost 6 foot. He's 5'6", he's not almost. So he meets this girl, and they meet up, and she says, the first thing she says to him, like, you're not almost 6 foot. He says, and you're not athletically built. So
Does anybody else in the
my
chat have
friend.
questions?
Yeah,
But
I was
basically,
gonna add
catfishing is
catfishing. Go ahead.
Oh, that
you can
I
you
would
can
say
distort pictures too. Yeah, Mike.
right. You know, catfishing, I would say, is essentially emotional manipulation before you meet someone with fake pictures, fake profiles, and essentially lies.
And I would
To
even
get you
add, I know
to
it's mostly used on an
let in.
online setting, but I would use it in real life settings too. Because let me tell you, some of the people you meet when you travel to do events and sports, they are so full of bullshit. It is frightening when you encounter it.
True.
Yeah.
The old school ways of catfishing would be a girl putting Kleenex in her bra and a guy sticking a potato in the front of his
Yep.
pants.
That's right. Yep. Old
Well,
school.
I would. So this is funny now that Carla brought this up because on my driver's license I would put 5. I'm 5'4", but I'd say 5'5". You know, I don't want to be too close to Tom Cruise's height. It's, you know,
Oh,
apple boxes. I know that a lot of people think he's 5'7". He ain't fucking 5'7". He's 5'4". Maybe with his growth hormones or whatever, he's like 5'5", 5'6". But I would put on my driver's license in college. I was about 109 pounds, 110. I was very light, just scrawny. I would put 130, and it's funny because people who check the ID, they'll look at it real quick. People at bars, and one bouncer guy goes, "You're not 130 pounds." It's like, how do you know? Are you weighting myself here? He's like, "Buddy, you're about 110." I was like, "Damn, you're good." But that's the thing. It's like online with guys, you kind of it's hard if you're short. A lot of women want a guy taller. I get it. I really do. But when you're short, you kind of have to. It's a little bit more extra steps to win the women over. You gotta finesse it. So you have to be the joke, the comedian stuff. And then Carlos said, "Thanks for explanation, guys. Any other questions we have before we move on to the next topic?" I know. Hold up. So Hound 3000 needs some hugs. He said, "Andy is stating facts, but I'm not a biologist, though."
I guess real quick, we can just answer what's everyone's favorite father-son movie.
because
That's a good. Ooh, damn! I'm not prepared for this one. Father son.
I don't have a father-son
you
movie. I have a father-daughter movie, and it's kind of a chick flick with Deadpool, Ryan Reynolds. What is it? Definitely Maybe, where he's talking about dating the 3 women in his life to his daughter and explaining who's her mom and why he kept the book of, spoiler alert, of Isla Fisher more than everyone else. I think that interaction, I love that aspect of that movie, just from their interactions between, as you can see, she's almost a teenager, so he's explaining it in ways I think that will actually be beneficial to her. So I kind of love that adult-child interaction there.
Douchebag College says favorite father
I think for
son
me it
movie
would
is
probably
Force
be
Awakens.
blasphemy. I think between my son and myself, because he really liked this movie, was The Iron Giant.
Oh, okay. I can't believe I didn't think of that. That's a good one.
Yeah, because
I would.
he really liked that movie from early on.
I would say my father. I'll do both. I like Jeff's way of actually flipping it. And Douchebag Kyle, the best father son movie is gonna be yours. Is gonna be The Last Skywalker. But Jennifer Lawrence wasn't in it, so she couldn't do anything good about it. But anyways, my favorite father son movie is gonna be I have to say it in my Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade.
Yeah.
That one it's very good. I have a really bad experience with dads, and I have like that's my big issue. Like I'll be honest with you guys, we're gonna get serious for a second. I have an issue with like a trust issue with older men because of father figures and stuff. But
I think
and,
that's directed less at you.
but I'm learning how to handle it and stuff. And it's just I've talked to Gary about it. But that movie right there is such a good father son relationship between a father and son who have beef with each other over the years, and then at the end they kind of
See each other.
bond it together and stuff. It's such a good one. And the father daughter one, I would say you kind of have to go with the chick flick one. I would say Watch to Remember is kind of up there, or even better yet, I'll take that back. What's the Steve Martin movie? Father of the Bride, right?
Yeah.
That one, I think that one would be it. Where it's
yeah.
He really does care about his daughter, and it's the comedy of it and stuff. But if I had to pick father son movie, it would be The Last Crusaders. That's such a good one. It's really hard. There's not a lot of good movies with father son type things because it's just But that's good.
All right,
Any other?
gentlemen. I
Yeah, so,
believe
well,
I don't see any more questions in the chat. Andy, would you like to get something in real quick? Or
Well, for a father-son movie, like at first I was thinking like a movie you watch with your father, but now I get like the homework here where it's like, and ironically, both my choices for a great father-son movie and a great father-daughter movie have the same stars in it. Um, the first great father-son movie that I like is um, Legends of the Fall with Anthony Hopkins and Brad Pitt, because he's got a relationship with all three of his sons, but they're all different, which I thought was really cool. And the best father daughter movie is Meet Joe Black, where Anthony Hopkins' relationship with his younger daughter is just it's perfect. It's like she's just the apple of his eye. Like he's got the older daughter and they got a great relationship, um and she says to him that like look, I understand that like I'm not your favorite and that's okay, but you're mine. It's like she walks in the room, your face lights up. I walk in the room, you're like, what does she want now? But the way that and she says to him like I always felt loved, and so it wasn't like one was abused and one was treated great. It was just those two connected a little bit, like a little bit differently. And it was it's just as a father to a son and a daughter, like both of those things are kind of like they strike a chord with me. So
And I'll add another movie, I think, to the list that I think aspects of it gets overlooked, and that is the Thor
Brokeback
movie,
Mountain.
the first one with
Yeah.
Odin and Thor itself, where Odin is trying to teach Thor a lesson. And I did like 30 minutes on a podcast once about Thor's PTSD, but I believe Thor in the Marvel universe was probably the best written character throughout all the movies because of his development, his beaten down, his trying to regain everything. But that father relationship with Odin and Thor, I thought was really well done.
yeah, it's funny. Anthony Hopkins does such a great job at portraying fathers, but unfortunately, he doesn't. He's got an estranged relationship with his only child. So,
all right, gentlemen, I believe it's time for the manliest stories.
So this segment is new, and this is if you can, whatever manly story that you have, and I will do mine first to give an idea. We like to break it up. Like, for example, these manly stories are pretty much guy competitive. Like, who has the best Scar story, and who has the best car story, something to compete. Like, break up the monotony. No drama, no nothing. Let's see who has the best story. That's how I came up with it. And the gist is, it came from the movie Spy with Jason Statham doing a monologue about the craziest shit he did, which didn't make sense at all. That's what it is. And I told Gary, I was like, I got this idea. He's like, that doesn't make sense. That's stupid. I was like, no, it's funny. So my most manliest story is of how I actually became a cowboy. And in the Midwest, some ranches will have different ways of doing it. It's kind of initiation now, and I think it's been like that for such a long time. And I was branding calves, and where you neuter them or you brand them depending on what if it was a male or female kind of situation. I think we're mostly doing male cows, and we were branding them, neutering them, and getting them ready for because in Nebraska they do a lot of beef and they sell them, so they can't reproduce, so they limit those. They cut them on the balls, and it was one summer. I did it for maybe I think 3 summers, either 3 or 4 summers, and they said, okay, so every summer we meet up for about 3 or 4 months or so. And the third summer they said, all right, guys, you've been doing this for a while. Do you guys want to be cowboys? And we're like, sure, why not? We did a lot of different things. We did all different, like helped feed the cows, the horses, all these different things, but mainly it was just branding the calves or whatever. Any pig or goats, any free little animal. Anyways, and they decided, all right, so they get the oldest looking possible dudes. I mean, they like if you set a firework off, they would just freak out, like those guys. But they were knowledgeable. They would tell us all these crazy stories. And they said, all right, and we get out there probably about 3 in the morning. Like they woke us up. They dragged us out and they're like, all right, come with us. So we walk out there and it's this little pen. And we see a little picnic table. It has like, when you go to an Italian restaurant, you see the red and white checker flag, little sheet thing that goes over the tables. They had that out there. It was candlelight dinner. 4 of us. Like, is this a date or something like this? Like, we had no idea what was going on. Like, all right, you're going to sit here. Whoever's the last one sitting will be a cowboy. I'm like, okay, like, that's easy. They let a bull out. And then it was Russian roulette. And everyone left but me. I was so scared out of my mind, I couldn't leave the table. I was like, I'm scared. So I was initiated as a cowboy. But the fact that there's like a 1,000-pound bull running towards me scared the living bejesus out of me. Like it had the horns out to here. And I was like, I'm going to die. That's what's going to happen. These guys are killing us. That's what's going to happen. So that's my manly story. See if you guys can top that.
Okay, I got one for you. When I was in the Washington-Baltimore corridor, I did some part-time work at a local hospital working security for the ER. And I happened to be in one of the corridors coming back from break when the code sounded basically for a crazy person in the ER. So when that happened, we would have to stand back by the door. So I'm in this old hospital hallway. It's cement on both sides. You got the big metal iron door for fireproofing. And I'm like, okay, nothing's happened. I've gone through many of these calls before. Well, then all of a sudden I see this gentleman who, lack of a better term, was about 6'4", 250, and cracked out of his head. And you could see the sweat. But that wasn't even the worst part. The worst part was he was butt arse naked. So you have this guy who's high on crack, quite huge, looking at you kind of like that bull that you described, but only the bull probably had more wits about him and was probably at least a little scared. This guy looked at me like I was lunch. And I'm not exactly small. In my prime playing days, I'm 6'1", 195 pounds, but in hockey shape. So I'm sitting here, and this guy just looks at me like he's going to run through me, and I start freaking out and shaking. and he starts running down the hallway. I think his intention wasn't actually to hurt me, but you couldn't tell 24-year-old me that. So he's coming down this hallway, he's running. So I start to get to the side to just kind of let him go, and he makes this little move, and I do a little bit of a hip check, shoulder check into him. He runs into the concrete, hits his head, keeps on running out, and then he's running down, and he starts looking back and like, wait a minute, did you do that to me? Because he was so out of his mind. I've never been more scared in my life of another human being, and it was more because he was huge and he was naked.
Anyone else?
Yeah, the naked part would do it for me. Let's see. Yeah, I got one. Back when I was in my mid-20s, there was this bar that, a bunch of friends of myself we used to hang around with, right? We never caused trouble or anything like that. Just a bunch of friends hanging out and whatnot, just enjoying our time, right? And one evening, there was one guy, for some odd reason, and to this day, I still don't know, but he was like on the far end of the bar, right? I'm just sitting down with my buds, having a beer and whatnot. And this guy just keeps on staring at me, right? Don't know why, right? And as time goes on, like 5 minutes later, he's still staring at me, and I'm looking at him. It's like, what the heck is this guy's problem, right? Apparently, he had some sort of problem with me. I don't know why. Never met the guy, never seen the guy in my entire life. Next thing I know, after 10 minutes, he gets up and he just looks at me yelling, "That's it. I've had it with you. I'm going to kick your ass." I'm like, the fudge, right? So he comes charging at me. And me, I like to generally think, that I think pretty quick on my feet, right? And rather just, get into a fight, I like to kind of think first with my brains. So what did I do? I took the beer bottle, which happened to be empty at the time. I smashed it on the bar. Now, you would think I would hold it up to the guy that's charging at me, but no, I did the opposite. I held it up to my neck, and I said, "You want to see some blood that bad, buddy? Go ahead. I'll freaking cut myself and bleed right all over you." And after that, he's like, "Whoa, whoa, man, I didn't know you were some kind of freak." Then turns around and leaves. That's it.
What about you, Andy?
Well, let's see. There was a time I had a tooth break at McDonald's, so I had no health insurance, so I cut it out with a knife. That was just
Think
pain
Andy
tolerance.
wins.
But that was just pain tolerance. But now,
I
when
am
we were in Wyoming, we were herding cattle, and most of the time it was pretty easy because everything was pretty flat. Well, the last day, the last pasture we had to go was on the side of a mountain, and some of the cows decided, "Hey, that grass looks really tasty out there on the side of the mountain." Well, we had to go get them, and man, it was either trust this horse that he's not going to kill himself and just give him his head and let him go. So there I am. The horse is walking like this. It's a sheer drop on the other side. And you got to get it out there and you got to push the cattle along. And if this horse missed, there I was going down 200 feet and got him around and yeah, that sucked. So that's probably the closest I've been to death. Well, yeah, out of not stupidity. Anyway. We'll
I remember it's always, you get like people, when I did ranching for a while, you'd always get people who would work at McDonald's or Starbucks or something. And this was high school. And it's always the people you can tell real quick in the first day. And we never really invited the girls to come work with us because they just, something like they knew, like, you know what, like this is kind of like a man, so we want to train men to be more manly and actually get them to do hard work. And there was one guy, he's like, probably an hour into, he's like, "Can I go home now?" We really never saw the guy ever again during the summer because I think they put him to work. He was gone. He was like on the other side of the ranch. We never really saw him. I was like, well, if you complain, there you
You're
go.
gonna do stuff now? Damn.
Goat, do you have a manly story?
Well, just to summarize, I've shrugged off things and gotten up from things that a lot of people probably wouldn't. But maybe that'll be a story for another night. At the moment, is there anything the chat has in terms of questions? Anything for the panel? Anything in regard to manly stories? Anybody got a question?
Orville Nation said, I want to see Rancor Steve acting on Yellowstone season 6. You know, I'm
There you
here.
go.
So something crazy about that show is for you to be on the show, you have to go through an actual training, like cowboy ranching training. So when you actually do start acting in the show, it's all muscle memory. It's everything. It's like you're doing everything of a cowboy. And I guess I didn't know this when I looked into it more of that show. There's legit cowboys that are acting. I know the guy who created the show, Taylor Sheridan, he's a legit cowboy. And he owns part of the 666 ranch. And he's legit. He's like, if you can't do this, you're not going to be on the show. I'm like, I could do this. And my wife's like, sure you can. I was like, shut up. I can do it. But I mean, if Taylor Sheridan and Kevin Costner said, hey, we want you to be on the show, I'll do it. I'll tell Gary, it's like, I'm going to be gone for a while, so you do this plumbing.
Yeah.
I'll do this. I'd love to do it. But
It
any
will be
other...
fun. Hanging out is pretty good.
I'm looking at the chat right now. I know SP4H said, anyone want to hear my impression of a cow with mad cow disease? Here it comes.
Let's see here.
Skinwalker Ranch. Oh no, not that one. That's a bunch of Europeans coming to California in the ocean, and they're white as day. White as day. That's the other thing. So I live at a very tourist place in California, and you can tell who are the tourists and who are not. It's not by the driving; it's by them getting in this cold ass water that's like 30 degrees below. And I'm a certified scuba diver, so I'll go in every once in a while with Gary, and we'll do scuba diving. But you'll see these guys in Speedos and everything, and I'm like, dude, that water is cold as balls. And I'm a guy who's about 140 pounds, and still, if that water is freezing to my toes, I'm good. I ain't gonna get in.
I would think that it would be, a bit warmer than that, considering how the current comes up from the equator.
It's different. So I took my wife to our 5th anniversary to Florida, and I showed her my hometown, and she's like, this is such a nice town. I was like, I don't remember this town anymore. Like, I blacked it out. And we were walking on the ocean in Florida, and the water's nice. It's different. Florida, the Atlantic Ocean in Florida is much warmer. In California, it's fucking cold. Unless you're in LA, then it's just hell.
Oh, dude, you come up here.
Or
I'll show
Hawaii.
you cold. We'll get you into the Polar Bear Club. No problem.
I've done that before, and I hate it. I've done the polar bear dive. I've done that.
Really?
I went to, it was one winter in Tahoe, and we did it. And I was like, you guys are fucking crazy. I hate it.
I did that about
That's
2 years ago.
Did you really?
Yep.
And?
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. Of course,
Yeah,
it was.
okay.
It was 46 degrees outside. We hit a warm spot, like right there. Like it had been like 10 degrees all week long, and then like the day of the polar bear plunge, it went up to 46, and the water temperature was 36, so it wasn't that bad.
Oh, that's not, yeah.
We all did the
That's
polar
fitting,
bear
man.
plunge before the show. We'd have to change the title of the show. That's my meaning.
But I did.
You need not an Audi.
We did a ski trip when I lived in Nebraska. We went up to Minnesota in the wintertime. It was like a week before Christmas, and it was insanely cold. And my youth pastor and his family's from Minnesota. And we went up there, and they're like, "Does anyone want to do?" First time I ever heard of this polar bear dive or whatever you want to call it. And I was like, "Sure, I'll do it." It's like 10 degrees. It's like the water is negative 1,000. It's just cold. I jump in.
Yep.
And I don't know if you probably heard of a guy. There's a scream that we all have.
The Wilhelm.
Comes out when it's
Yeah.
ear shattering screeching, and I am just screaming like a girl, like a voice I've never heard me do before. And they're like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "This is not human. This is not natural. I don't ever want to do this." But I done it in Tahoe, and it's not that bad. But
Yeah,
you
you
know,
can
if
hit octaves that you've never hit before.
you start
yeah.
questioning your masculinity. You're like, "Am I a girl or am I a man?"
And I would love to sit here and tell you it gets better the second, third, fourth, or fifth. No,
no.
No, it never does. Never.
I went through some
Never.
ice once in a lake, and that was pretty damn cold. I had to and then of course you can't get back up on the ice. You got to keep breaking it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've been around the Arctic Circle in early March.
Ugh.
That's cold. In the Arctic Ocean. That's
You know
cold,
what we
my
should
friends.
do for initiation to be on the panel? We should have people jump into ice cold. Not this 46 degree, 36. I mean, 10 degrees outside and like negative 200,000 degrees. Like, just
That's what I'm saying. Jump up
in.
here.
If
Some of
you
the
jump
cold
in and
water's
you
fun.
survive, you could be on the panel. It's
Some of the coldest water I've ever been in was in Hawaii. We were on the Big
Really?
Island, and it was March, and
oh,
the ice was thawing at the top of the mountain, and it was coming down, running all the way down into the brackish water, and it was like, man, that was cold. Woo-hoo.
we did a hike, my wife and I, with her family on a family trip to Hawaii, and we might go this year. And it's an 4-mile hike up and then 4 mile down. And there's a waterfall. It's a fun hike, beautiful area where the waterfall is. We get to the water. I put one toe in and I was like, I'm out. See you guys. I'm just going to sit here. You guys, they're all in it. And I was like, you guys are fucking crazy. And they're like, why not? You're a sissy. I was like, no, I'm logically thinking about this because I'm going to hate it. I can't do cold water. And they're all telling me during Christmas, like, you can do it, right? And I was like, I think I'm going to stay and just be an introvert because I ain't going to do this hike again. I like the hike, but dude, cold water, if it's
Follow
like
Wim Hof.
Yeah. If it's with a group of guys, yeah, I'm going to show up. But you know what? I'm not going to puss out. I'm just going to do it. I was like, you know what? I'm with a bunch of guys. Let's do this. Who's going to do it? Like, it's like jumping off a 60-foot cliff into water. Like, who's got the balls to do this? So, I would like to see Gary actually jump into really cold water, see his reaction, see what he gets out.
Videotape that,
Like,
please.
hello, boys. How you guys doing?
I would pay to see that so
We'll
much.
make it-
where you guys are at right there with that trench and shit, that's got to be some pretty damn cold water.
Oh man, we drove by and we saw waves crashing. We're like, hey, like, you want to go scuba diving? He's like, we're never gonna live. Douchebag Carlos says, remember when Flick got his tongue stuck to the frozen pole in A Christmas Story? Yeah, I knew a guy who lived that in Alaska. Only it wasn't a dare. It was hitching post. And oh jeez. I have
on that one. Ow.
all right. So here's a funny story. When I lived in Florida and we were driving to Nebraska, my dad said at the time, he said, whatever you guys do, we watched Christmas Story before we left. And this was Christmas. And he said, whatever you guys do, don't stick your pole don't stick your tongue on a frozen pole. And my younger brother and I were like, why? Like, we're dumb rednecks. We're like, why? What's going to happen? And he's like, just don't do it. And then my younger brother and I were playing like snowball tag. And he said, hey, let's do hide and go seek. And we're like, all right. And I'm counting. All you hear is, he sticks his tongue in our pole. And, buddy, it's funny. It's funny to watch, but I've never done it. So lesson, boys.
I did it once. Yeah, I did it once, and just had enough time to pull it off before it froze, and never again. Never.
I got $5 as you're not going to do it.
I would never do
I'll
it. The
take
coldest
that
thing I've ever stuck anything to was my ex-wife.
Oh man. All right.
Awesome.
On that note, we're going to get to the topic. And tonight's topic is how to approach women. And a lot of us know how to approach women, and I'm not referring to the creepy way. And Jeff's like, I can't do this. I don't know how to do it. Blah, 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 blah. But here's the thing, man up, nut up, or shut up, as I say. And it's kind of the way to help guys approach women. And I'm curious to see what you guys have to say. There's different ways of doing it. And I'm saying this in a non-creepy way. You don't have to go on Twitter and be like, I like both. Or like, do you like your last name? I can change it for you, baby. None of that stuff. Of like how to approach. Because there's guys.
You know what I like best in a girl like you?
Yeah.
I've
Way to
used
go,
that
leave
line.
your seat, Larry.
I've used that line at bars. It doesn't go so well. But it's oh, way to go, Andy. But there's a lot of guys out there that they don't know how to approach women, and that are thinking about like, hey, I want to date, I want to talk to women, and there's a lot of guys that just don't know how to do it. And I want to hear what you guys have to say. Like, what's the proper way? What's a way to approach women that doesn't scare women away from guys? Because there's a lot of ways you can do it. You could do it the Matt Damon way, with the guy, whatever blondie guy who reads the back cover of a book and reads it, and then, ooh, you sound so intellectual, and then takes him home, and it's like cockroaches in an apartment room, and they're like, hey, how you doing? That kind of thing. That doesn't work out so well. Like, but that's somewhat true with me, but not all the way. But how would you guys, in a short way of approaching a woman, would you tell guys, hey, this is how you could do it? Not everyone.
Go first.
Okay. Number one, recognize that without any confidence, you're not going to get anywhere. So be confident about it, and don't be afraid to get shot down. Don't be insulting. Don't walk up there like you're expecting her to say no anyway, but walk up and say hello. Yeah, you could use your name. You could ask her name. Like, you could, ask her if you could buy her a drink if you're at a bar. If you're at a bar, chances are they're there to meet somebody, but check and see if there's any rings on the fingers or not. That'll be helpful. If you're out somewhere else and you see somebody, it's ironic from what I hear from women. They don't like being hit on at the gym, but they certainly dress like it.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting thing. But yeah, so the main thing is like, and have something that you're going to say. And try not to act like, they're the only woman in the world. Like, recognize that if it doesn't work with that one, sooner or later you get the one where it does. But confidence is the main thing. And most importantly, all the women I've ever dated, they want a confident man. And so if you're um, stumbling all over yourself, they're like pretty much like, and usually, my experience, like a woman has decided whether or not she's going to like give you the time of day within seconds. So you don't have a whole lot of like it's not going to be over the course of an evening. You're not going to take a few weeks to get to know someone. You're already friend zoned there. Like, so forget it. So unless you're like really, really good looking, really, really rich, um, uh, you better work on your personality and also work on your appearance and work on things that are um, like your physique. Work on like confidence and fitness will never ever be a bad thing. Um, and those things help your confidence. So if you go and if you look like shit, like your hair's cut stupid, you've got a big zit on your face or something like that, you're probably not going to feel your most confident. But when you go somewhere and you look good, you've kind of prepped for the thing, you've probably got a pretty good shot. And the only other thing I might add is know your range. So if I don't know, you're 5'6" and 350 pounds, you know, the hottest girl in the bar, unless your stack of cash in your pocket is as thick as your waistband, it's probably not going to work with the hottest chick in the bar. So you just kind of know your parameters there a little bit. That's my advice to young men about it. Like, and the main thing is the confidence, though. Like, if you're confident, it will do wonders. I've seen, I've seen a lot of guys that like you would think, oh, that guy doesn't have a shot in hell, but because they're confident. One of my great friend I used to have before he drank himself to death. Guy was like not good looking at all. He was short, half Irish and half German and a ginger. But this guy had more friggin' confidence than anyone I've ever met. And he was just like, because to him it was just like, all right, well, there's another one behind you. All right, didn't work out there. And that was a big lesson for me. And like, wow. Because I remember one time when I'd first turned, like, and there's this really cute girl there, and I'm sitting there trying to think of something witty to say. I'm trying to think like, and this is back in late '80s, and some Joey Guido comes up. He's got like his Camaro Z28 keychain, and he's like, "Hey, yo," and he says the most stupid pickup line, and I'm sitting there like rolling my eyes, like, "Yeah, that's gonna work," and it did, and I'm like, "Well, I'm really." I'm really looking at this the wrong way. So after that, I started taking some advice and yeah, confidence is the number one thing.
Jeff?
Play hockey. Serious, I'm 51. I've never successfully asked anyone out. I have more than enough offers when I was playing, and after I quit playing, it was through honestly my hockey friends' wives who would set me up with their friends. I never, I've never approached any woman anywhere to ask them on a date successfully, and I'm not ashamed to admit it because I have been married twice.
You do you, boo.
No,
Mike.
I have no advice. Sorry, other than play hockey.
Play hockey, beat the shit out of people. And you're like, yeah, you doing, ladies?
Now, I will add one caveat. I never got to even a sniff of the highest level, but they know. As Andy was saying, the confidence thing. When I was out on that rink, when I was in my goalie gear, I was as confident as I've ever been in my entire life. And they can see it and they can, pardon this, but they can smell it too. Now, you will have people come up to you. I played some arenas when I played roller hockey, um, to where guys were pretty much changing behind the stands, and you would have women come up. They could tell you who were the good hockey players, who were the bad ones, by the number of women who would gravitate around you. The problem is and I hate saying this, but the problem is you never know the age of the individual coming up to you. And that is scary as hell when you have someone who's kind of attractive with these really nice blue, crystal blue eyes, asking and offering to help you get out of your hockey gear around 20, 30 other people. And you have a friend lean over to you and whisper and go, dude, she's 16. It's like, oh, come on, man. So, as great as it was that I didn't necessarily have to go out and look, the pitfalls and the traps from just even going out to bars or other events and rest, wherever you go, even Comic Cons, if you go that route, it's scary.
Wow.
Mike, what is your thoughts?
My thoughts, pretty much along the same lines as Andy. I mean, confidence definitely helps for sure. And I mean, I can only say because way back when I was shy, I was withdrawn. Um, I was just pretty socially awkward. And then, after a while, I just started kind of finding my confidence coming out of my shell. But I find that humor, like just trying to be funny, really helps to break the ice. And also on top of that, to kind of help your confidence, I find myself. Um, because I remembered this one line that somebody said. I can't remember who it was to this day, but I remember somebody saying, you know what? Generally, the prettiest girl in a place or the prettiest woman in the place, nobody will ask her out because everybody assumes that she's already taken. And I kind of remember that. And it's kind of in the way that I found my wife. And believe it or not, we met at the flea market. And a lot of my friends were like, yeah, ask around, ask around. She was a couple of tables down from where I was. I was with the guys and just a nerd, really, selling comics. And she was a couple of tables down and she was selling her stuff. And so it's like, all right, fine, I'm gonna go for it, right? But I was scared to death, really, to how am I going to approach her? What am I, what's my opening line going to be, right? I mean, I wasn't suave like a lot of guys having pickup lines or anything like that. Really, I didn't, right? I was like, pretty awkward. But there was a bike there that was right in front of her table. And so I said, I asked her about this bike. And I wanted to actually I said I was going to get it from my mom. And I kind of was, right? And so I asked her, you mind if I try this out, see if it works any good? She's like, sure, I guess so, right? So what did I do? I got on the bike and I rode up and down the aisle of this flea marketplace inside, right? That was full of people. And she thought I was a nutcase doing that, right? And eventually, when everybody was starting to go home, eventually I asked her for her phone number. And you know what? Sometimes, like I said before, sometimes crazy works. Sometimes doing the most offbeat, silliest, goofiest thing. Even if you don't have a lot of confidence, can be the opening to meeting that someone special. So, I'm not the most rugged, most good-looking guy in the universe or anything like that, but you know what? I'll use what I got, and sometimes that's my smarts, and sometimes just doing something totally offbeat and off the wall. So,
When I first met my wife, I was wearing a squirrel suit.
were you really?
Yeah.
Seriously? Nice.
How you like them nuts, lady?
And then she was kind enough to fix me up with this really hot chick.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Yeah. The first thing she did for me was hook me up with this girl we work with. Beautiful girl. She looked like Elizabeth Berkley, but blonde. who was addicted to cocaine,
Huh.
and apparently my money.
It's a hell of a drug.
Yeah, she made off with about 800 of my favorite dollars. It was like, "Eh, thanks."
Oh,
It should have been an
dang.
omen, but oh well.
For me, it's
Meh.
being someone who's been homeschooled and like the nerdy looking guy. After college, even during college, I never really understood of like, hey, how to pick up chicks. Like I was always the virgin looking guy. And so there was a lot of women
Was.
that or was. Yeah, was. And a lot of women honed in on
Dang.
that. And I've learned some tricks and trades, but as I get older, I'm like, pulling the guy tricks and all that stuff, it kind of it gets old after a while. Like I did the whole, I don't know if any of you know this, but if you, the Braveheart move is if you watch Braveheart and it only works on if a lady likes um Scottish or Irish accents. Halfway through the movie, you're making out with her, and she's just like, "Hey, how you doing?" But that all it's like these little games, and I know women do the same thing also. But being a guy who's 5'4", um, just scrawny looking, it's a little harder, and so you kind of have to work around things a little bit. You can't play the whole. I was a quarterback in high school football. Okay, sure you were. No, you were more like the water boy. That's what it was. But I always kind of tell guys like, don't go to bars or definitely don't go to clubs. You know, clubs is like one of the worst places to ever meet someone. I always say
Oh,
like if you go to like a coffee shop or you like meet somewhere, meet someone through friends, it's probably the best way. But it's definitely confidence. If you show confidence, whether no matter how tall you are or how big or short you are or small, it doesn't matter. If you show confidence, women will eat that up. And it took me a long time to
yeah.
figure that out.
Yeah.
And it's through college it never really worked out, and then after college I'm like, this confidence thing is a lot better than just telling some crazy ass story like, yeah, I'm from Ireland. Oh, it's like, no, I'm clearly not. But if guys actually show confidence and just be honest, it's a lot of times women can kind of see if you're being honest or not.
Mm-hmm.
And if they can see that right away, I always say this in a weird, mean, possible way. Uh, I got it from Beautiful Mind, and it's a mathematical situation. If you see four women, and it's if you see a group of women, talk to the one who isn't being talked to a lot.
Mm-hmm.
If you talk to them, if you go up to the woman who not many guys are talking to because she doesn't look interesting or she doesn't sound interesting, if you start talking to her and you're hitting it off, and because like she's not gonna say like, yeah, he's just there to talk to me, but if you're genuinely talking to them and people and her girlfriends see it, then they see you as a genuine person. You're like, you know what, this guy isn't here to just hook up anyone. He's here to kind of
Yeah.
talk, get to know people. And that's usually the best situation. If a guy can find a group of women and then someone who isn't being talked to is usually the shy one, or it's always has the most interesting. That's how I met my wife. No one was talking to her at this New Year's Eve party. And I went up and talked to her, and she wanted to be a mathematician. I was like, oh, so you want to be like John Nash? And she's like, who? And I was like, oh, man, I'm a lot smarter than you now. Clearly, she's way smarter than me. But if you talk to the person who isn't being talked to a lot of the women are going to notice that. And they're like, you know what? He doesn't care about the looks or anything, whether that is your case or not. But if you actually talk to someone who isn't being talked to a lot, you open the door of a lot of women coming up to you and be like, hey, whatever they want to talk about. And usually most of the times you're more interested in the person who isn't being a lot of guys aren't talking to that woman a lot of times because she's more interesting. Because a lot of times the women are just dressed up to meet the star quarterback or whatever, the next Brad Pitt or whatever. They're not that interesting. There's only one thing in common that you have in them, and that's hook up with them. And the person who's
Yeah.
not being talked to, they're the easiest and more successful person to talk to because they understand, like, hey, this guy's weird. This guy's quirky, but you know what? I kind of like him. He's got good conversations. And that's how I look at it. It's like, you know what? Talk to the person. If the best way is if you want to start learning how to approach women, talk to women who you can kind of relate to and kind of ease into that. And like what Andy said is like no and getting turned away. No is the best answer to anything.
Mhm.
It helps you grow. It helps you because a lot of women don't get the no answer. And then when they do, they don't know what to do with it. Guys know the no answer. Hey, you want to go out with me or do you want to go catch a movie? No. Okay. We're used to it. And the more you get to know, the more confident you get. The more you're like, hey, this is how am I going to approach this scenario this time? So that's how I see it.
Yeah, and the bar environment, what really I was blessed in the late 80s, early 90s. I ran light and sound for a band that traveled Virginia, West Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, and Pennsylvania, southern Pennsylvania. And we played a lot of bars. We played a lot of dive bars. We played a lot of elevated locations. And it was, if I wasn't running lights at night, my friend was running sound, and we would switch up. Our greatest pastime, because after 5 or 6 shows, you know how, you know the music order, you know what lights you need to press and activate and get all that crap's done. Our favorite activity was to watch the people at the bar. We would see the men stake out the women. We knew they were going to fail. We would see, sorry, this is going to be a little blunt. We'd see some of the overweight women hit on anything and everything that moved that you knew they had no shot on. But as the night progressed, you would laugh because the more time the guys would get shot down, all of a sudden they would start talking to the slightly overweight, slightly uglier women, just so they wouldn't go home alone. And you could see this entire game being played every single night of the weekend at these bars. And you're just sitting there as I started when I was 19 running the lights and sound. And as a 19-year-old, I'm watching that going, oh God, I am never, ever going to go to a bar to try to pick up a lady. It just not going to happen.
That's right. Gotta have standards.
Yeah.
I know that there was a question that or a comment that Andy wanted to go over about Christopher Dominguez's thing.
Yes, he said that he lacks confidence. Okay, this is a really good point because a lot of us lack confidence, and it's not just something you're going to like. Oh, that's the problem. I didn't go inside my brain and flip on the confidence switch. But what you want to do is you want to do some things that are going to make you feel confident about yourself. Like so, we hear a lot of things about self-esteem. We hear a lot of things about like self-confidence and stuff. But a lot of people, they don't really tell you how to do that. Just tell you just do these things, and it's like it's as dumb as just telling somebody to relax when they're nervous. It's like if you could, you would. But accomplishment is the number one thing, the number one ingredient for self-confidence and self-esteem. Start accomplishing things. I usually tell people to start working on themselves physically because it's something you have direct control over. It's something you can start seeing results on virtually immediately if you're paying attention. Yeah, of course, it depends like how much you have to do, like how far you have to go and where you want to get to. But for the most part, like you just want to, even if you just start doing things that you couldn't do before, you're going to improve yourself, and therefore you're going to feel more confident about it. You're going to feel better about yourself. Find a project to do, learn to do something, and then test yourself and do it well. Whether it's like learning how to play a musical instrument, like or taking up some kind of activity or some kind of sport, some kind of thing where and especially if it's something you feel deficient in. If you feel like you're ineffective in, say, like fighting, take up a martial art, or take a boxing class or something like that, just to give you an idea about, oh, well, I've done a little bit of this, so it's not quite so foreign to me. Little things like that will go so far to build up your confidence. And then it's just a matter of like, you build it up a little bit, and then you just have to kind of push yourself in and take that plunge. It's like, that's why, birds push their young ones out of the nest, because like it's scary. It's like, and then all of a sudden, well, I can fly, and you'll surprise yourself. It's something that took me a long time to understand, and by the time I did, it was like, duh, I could have been doing this years earlier. But it will help you. Like, find some things that are going to boost your confidence, and accomplishment and success are the number one things that will help that.
And Andy, I want to
totally.
bounce this off to you. As never having to be in this situation, if I know I was going to be in an environment, especially if, say, I apologize for my language. I am so much a virgin in this field. It's kind of scary. But if you know you're going to a location or an event where you really want to get psyched up, get that confidence to engage that one person you really want to maybe try to pursue further activities with, things like I would look at it as like I used to do before every hockey game, every big tournament. Listen to music that puts you into a good mood. Maybe even pumps you up a little bit, get you
Yep.
going, get your blood flowing.
Mine's Celine
Set
Dion.
yourself up.
Yeah, like
I
for
believe
every
that.
hockey game, I used to have half a shot of alcohol, just to calm my nerves. So if that's something that works for you, find ways to elevate yourself to get ready for the situation, calm your nerves, and get find that one thing that you absolutely love about yourself. Everyone has something they love about themselves that they think they are really good at. Focus on that situation, and when you walk into that room or that building, build off of what you've done. And it sounds horrible in my brain to say it's a game, but you hype yourself up for that game that you're about to engage in.
Oh, everything's a game. Everything is a game,
Yeah,
and everything is really combat. It's Steve, does this. Whether he realizes or not, he spars with his wife on a daily basis, because that's what
Yep.
couples do. You're
Yep.
it's a push and a needling and a pulling. It's like, and what that does, whether you realize it or not, is it helps women challenge their husbands and to get pushback, because they want to feel secure, and they know they're testing you. So if you don't push back, now they feel insecure. It's a primal thing. And there can be feminists that are getting all pissed off and bent out of shape about it. I didn't write the genetic code. I'm just observing it. Okay.
That was Jennifer Lawrence.
Yeah. Thank you, Jennifer.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
right. Yeah. Yeah.
It was right after she separated the night from the day. But that's the thing. Like, everything is a contest in some aspect, and men are naturally more competitive. Now, if you've lost a lot and you keep losing these things, then you might want to hedge your bet. You want to do some things that are going to, like, well, the last 10 times, it's serotonin levels. The more you win, the more serotonin you get. The less you win, the less serotonin you get. It's like it just happens, right?
Yeah.
So the more wins you can rack up in your corner, the better you're going to feel. So that's just something you can do. It's like, immerse yourself in the things you are good at. And everybody's good at something. And if you're not good at something, you haven't been looking hard enough, you haven't tried enough. You'll find things that you will be really good at. Now, look, the idea that, like, I'm not saying that, like, if you don't look like Arnold Schwarzenegger, it's hopeless or anything like that. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that, like, when you start something and you can make a change and you can do something, you can improve something, it gives you confidence because you've actually done it. You've taken something from this and you've made it into this. That's a win. And it's
Yeah.
something you have direct control over.
And
And
it's
See, the thing is,
go ahead.
sorry, go. I mean, the thing is, confidence, like anything else, it's like a muscle. You constantly have to work it. It's like any skill that you do. It's like any sport that you play. To get good at it, it's like a muscle. You have to keep working at it all the time. If you don't, then you atrophy, so to speak,
Mhm.
right? And you find your niche. Yeah, like for yourself, Jeff, it's like playing hockey. I'd probably suck at hockey if I tried or whatever. Or for myself, I don't know, using humor in a situation, or so on and so forth, right? You find your niche, you kind of you kind of work it, so to speak, like that. And next thing you know, you're killing at certain things. But once you build up that confidence, it's going to carry on into other aspects of your life. I mean, not just say, meeting a woman that's eventually become your wife or anything like that. You're going to find out that, say, maybe with business dealings, it's going to help you a lot more. Maybe landing a client or something like that, or maybe it just carries on into the workplace where you just have so much confidence in the work that you're doing that, hey, next thing you know, you end up with a promotion or something like that, or a new job or whatever. You have to keep working it constantly. It's like a muscle.
Yeah.
It's as
Yeah,
simple
yeah,
as that.
and confidence, I think, has kind of been the theme for a lot of this. And
Yeah.
I have to. I'm going to make a brutal announcement. I guess I don't know what to call it right now. I was scared to
Do
do
it.
this show, not because
Oh,
I mean I've been podcasting on my own for 3-4 years. I have
Mhm.
no problem talking for an hour by myself if need be, but being on video kind of scared me because I
Yeah.
unfortunately had an accident that knocked out my upper 4 front teeth. So when I sometimes look at myself in the mirror, I am my own worst enemy. And when
Mm.
I let that demon win, I go into a hole for 2, 3 days.
Yeah.
But what gets me out can be applied to the same thing in the dating environment where, I look, okay, I can do this, this, this. I know this about me. I know this about me. And I bring more value than artificial appearance. So
Mm.
it is a challenge. And there are a lot of individuals who let that little bit of self-doubt creep in more than they should because every person has a value that they don't truly understand until they're put in that situation where they are
Mm.
given that moment to shine. And believe it or not, one of those environments could be engaging in people, could be meeting new individuals, could be reaching out to Steve during a pop culture breakdown, and all of a sudden finding yourself actually part of the show and trying to help other people. It's amazing and
Yeah.
it's awesome. So if you're in that dating environment, don't let your self-doubt win. If you're in a position where that self-doubt is winning, it's okay to step back. It's okay to retreat a little bit. Don't let it defeat you, but regroup, regather, rethink about what you are good at, what you know, what is the best about you, and then come back a couple days later and bring that toward the forefront.
well, I remember in college, I was at, I forget which, it was in LA. There's a club, and this girl's all like, oh my gosh, like and it was like the phase when I went to college. I looked like a redneck in a big city. It's like you can tell this guy is not from California, and it was obvious. And the last year that I was in LA, I kind of matured out of the redneck a little bit, and I adapted a little bit. And this chick, she's like, "So how much do you make?" And I was like, "I'm a college student. I make $0." And she was disappointed. And after the club ended and stuff, we talked about it. I was like, "Well, what? Like, what's so important about like how much a guy makes?" She's like, "Well, the more he makes, the much better." I was like, Well, I'm from a place where we don't value how much you make. It's your personality and it's who you are as a person. And she was like, it's like a math problem she's been solving for like her entire life has just been just reopened. She's like, "Are you what?" And nothing happened that night. She was super nice, and I explained to her, it's like,
Is that
you know,
possible?
I watched a video today where this girl's like, it was an interview. I don't know what the scenario was. This guy was asking her a question, and she said the guy in the asked some questions like, "What do you think about this guy?" She's like, "No, I'm not impressed." And he's like, "Well, how much do you make?" She's like, 30,000 a year. I'm like, "So you work at McDonald's, okay?" And you can narrow down where you work at based on how much you make a year, pretty much almost. And he said, "I make 14,000 a month." I'm like, Jesus Christ. And she wasn't impressed by that. 14, that's almost $500,000 a year. Like
Yeah.
that's pretty impressive. If women value money, then go out and find a job. If guys are like, I want a woman who values money, then go find a high paying job. But you're not gonna succeed because you're not gonna put the work into it. If a woman says, you know what, I want a guy who has a personality, who has hard work, who has ethics, who has morals, go to the Midwest. Like those are your man. Like or go to, I don't know, Pittsburgh or somewhere where it's hardworking labor and hardworking, like where you see a guy, blue collar guy. Like I work on houses, I get under houses, I do all these things that a lot of guys don't want to do, but I'll do it because it pays rent, it pays the bills, it puts food on the table for my wife and I. It's not fun, but it's there. And that whole conversation was like a 4-hour conversation where she was just blown away. She lived in the valley her entire life. She didn't understand guys very well. She's like, I thought all guys were this and that. I was like, you would be surprised there, lady. Like it's so hard for guys to approach women. And I found I went to her wedding too. And she ended up marrying one of my friends from the Midwest. And when he came to visit, and they hit off really well. Great family, everything going really well for them. And she thanked me. She's like, if we didn't talk for 5 hours, I wouldn't understand like what a real man is. And I was like, I'll take one for the bullet. But it's one of those things where it's if guys, depending on if you're short, you gotta do a little bit more work. You gotta be more comedic. You gotta exaggerate a little bit. If you're tall, you got a little things going well for you. But it depends on where you go. I wouldn't say go to a coffee shop and then the first girl you see right in front of you, be like, "Hey, I'm going to talk to you." And Carlos Sin.
Welcome, Canadian Spider-Man.
I'm getting words all mixed up, everybody. I need a vocabulary, my education. But we were talking about how to approach women, and
Yes.
we're glad to have you on board.
Thank you so much, Steve.
Yeah.
I had previous obligations. I got here as
No
quickly
worries.
as I can. Comic Relief Crusader,
There, dude.
Lost Wanderer, Andy Masterson. It's always good to see you.
So, what is a woman?
What is a woman? I don't think I can define a woman.
Take a stab in the dark, man.
If U.S. senators can't define what a woman is, I'm not sure I can.
Just keep the lights on.
Well, if I can, then I'm smarter than the U.S. senator, so I'm gonna take a shot in the dark.
True.
If you take a woman back and there's a little sneaky surprise, then start questioning things.
Yeah. I know a woman doesn't have a penis. I know that much.
That's good. You're on the track.
But
anyway,
anyways,
one's in Thailand.
You brought up a
brave
good
words,
there,
dude.
That you might have to work a little bit harder, but the thing is that there's a lot of guys out there that have a lot going for them. They're really pretty. They're they and all the girls are gushing over them and stuff like that. And a lot of times that can be a bad thing because you never develop a personality. You'll never really, and this is men and women. You'll notice like as you get a little bit older and like you start to have high school reunions that the people that go to fewer of them are the people that peaked in high school. Because now they're fading and they don't. Oh, I don't look as good as I did, and I don't want to go back there and then have people that I made fun of looking better than me. So they might have an advantage getting in the door, getting their footing in the door. But after that, you better have a good personality to keep it going. Now, the argument could be made that like honesty plays a big part in a lot of this. It's like if it's funny because like we see all these things about how men are judgmental and men are like all about appearance and stuff. No one's more judgmental than another woman. They will rip each other apart in a heartbeat like piranhas, man. They're brutal to each other. And men, men, we may hit each other a little bit, but like the torture is usually not psychological.
Right. We bond that way.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like regardless, you have to develop a decent personality. And if that is a deficiency for people, force yourself to go out and talk to people. Force yourself if you're out in a social situation, talk to someone in a checkout line next to you. Like just small talk, say hello, be positive, be happy, make a little joke, things like that. And the happier you are, the happier you'll come across and the happier you'll be. People do not like negative people. Like if you go in there and like, and you're going to be like, sarcastic and douchey, like, most women, well, at least my opinion, the women worth dating aren't going to be attracted to that. Like, and you don't want to be around someone who's negative all the time. So if you can be in a good mood, be happy, things like that, those are things that are really going to help you. Yeah, you can do those other things that are going to get you that initial attention, but it's only good one time. It's you can only use that card once. And if it's like going to see a movie that looks really pretty, lots of special effects and stuff like that. But if the story is awful, there's not too many people that are going to keep going back to it. And it's certainly not going to get rewatched over years and years and years. It's the same thing. So you got to think to yourself, like, I may have this advantage or this disadvantage, but somewhere out there, there's someone who's going to be okay with it. And the other thing too is like, don't get full of yourself. Because remember, no matter what you do, it's temporary. Anything can happen that can knock you down a peg and usually will. So be prepared for that. And so if you're, with someone who expects you to be like, hitting on all 8 cylinders for the next 50 years, that could be a little bit of a red flag there because you can't sustain that level of, high marks. So, those are some things that you want to keep in mind. Like Steve's right. A lot of us, like, we do have to work a little bit harder at things, but that's fine. It's going to make you a better person in the long run because hard work is what separates you. Hard work is what defines you. And you're going to find that people will gravitate towards that because people like confidence. You're going to go in and like, I want to know if I go into a supermarket, I want to know that the guy stocking the shelves is actually putting the stuff out there that I want to buy. You're competent at your job. I want to know that the guy flying my plane can actually fly my plane. That's the competence thing that you're looking at. So like, do those things, work at things, and be the best version of you can, and know that like your personality and the way that you treat people are going to be the big thing. And all of us can take a lesson from this. Like, how do we treat people? How do people react to the things I say? How do, like, I know somebody who's like, she's been so blunt and tactless with people for many years and wonders why she doesn't have any friends. Like, well, maybe that's why. Like, well, I didn't mean it that way. It doesn't matter if you meant it that way. You have to think about things like, how is the other person taking it? How is the other person receiving that message that you're saying, and how are they processing it? There's another person I know that she would ask advice all the time, and would be every sentence or conversation she would start off with was what ailment she had. Well, people get tired of hearing it. They may be sympathetic for a little bit, but they get tired of hearing it because everybody's got their own crap to deal with. Everybody's got their own issues. And if all you're going to bring to a conversation is like what feels bad about you today, it's going to get old really fast. So you have to always evaluate yourself. And you have to know that, like, when you sit down to have a conversation, you actually have something to say to somebody. So have that plan. You can improve things all you want, like to get your foot in that door, but you better have a conversation after that.
Yeah. Canadian Spider, before we get to Jeff, did you have any input on this?
I did. Just briefly. I have some experience with girls. I started out, I was shy, all through junior high school. I was shorter. I didn't have a lot of confidence, but like Andy says, become competent. And I've lived with 6 women for extended periods of time, not at the same time. That would have been cool. But and what I've learned is what Andy says, how you treat other people. Women notice that, they pick up on that, and if you're a douche, they're not going to stick around for, you might have something that'll get you in the door, but they're not going to stick around if you're not a kind person, if you're not a positive, pleasant person to be around. So that's the number one. Be pleasant, be positive, and a sense of humor. A sense of humor goes a long way with girls, I think. You and not lame humor. Try and be genuinely, have a sense of humor, and be authentic. That's the key. Be authentic. If you're phony, you can only keep that up for so long. So be your true self. Be authentic, and that's the best advice I can think of, Steve.
Cool. I totally agree with that. Being funny, there's a difference between actually being genuinely funny and then just pushing the jokes.
Right.
Like, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Women can catch on to that pretty quick.
They're not stupid.
Yeah, if you can be genuinely funny, women will, even if they're like, whether they want to hook up or not, like, they can catch on to that really quick. And if they just want to be around a guy who's genuinely funny, because who knows what they're going through, they might find it a little bit nicer, but like, you know what, he's a pretty funny guy, like, I want to hang out with him. Yeah. As long as you don't get in the friend zone, which eventually we'll talk about that.
Man.
But Jeff, you wanted to point something out.
I have a bit of a personal story, a kind of regret story about when I was 17, and some of the older gentlemen on the panel and maybe in chat will appreciate this. We used to go to the mall and walk around and do laps around the mall all Friday and Saturday night.
Yep.
Well, there was this one amazingly beautiful young woman who was my age, by the name of Catherine, I won't mention her last name, who happened to look a lot like a certain singer from the band who sang Walk Like an Egyptian.
Oh, the Bengals.
Yes, she was a dead ringer for her. And I entered the creep zone in a way because I was too scared to approach her and ask her out. I thought she was so far out of my league, it wasn't even funny. So I never violated her space or anything like that. It wasn't quite that level of creep. But for about a year and a half of running into her at football games, because we were similar schools and at the mall, I never took the chance to ask her out. So fast forward 6 years. Myself and 2 of my hockey buddies are traveling to Mount Joy, Pennsylvania to get new hockey gear. And he's like, "Hey, my girlfriend." Well, one of the guys says, "Hey, my girlfriend is up at a major Pennsylvania university. Let's stop by and meet her, and maybe she'll want to go along." So he gets out of the car, goes up to the dorm room, and me and my other line mate we're sitting there, we're just talking. And all of a sudden, our other line mate walks out with Catherine.
Oh,
And I am
wow.
sitting here, I am dying. You cannot imagine the look on my face at that given moment. So I had to spend the next 12 hours in pure hell being around this girl who I'll be honest, I dreamt of, I fantasized of. I thought she was this otherworldly being that I had no chance of ever encountering.
Was the other lineman's named Jesse?
No. So we spent the entire day, as soon as I got to the hockey shop, I went right to the goalie section, and they left my other crewmates over in the other department.
Yeah.
And I did everything in the world to get away from her. Finally, at the end of the night, she said, "You look familiar." I'm like, "Yeah." And we had this conversation. Well, she slipped me her phone number and said, I would love to talk to you more. So my older sister happened to live right outside the campus, and I would go up there routinely to get some ice time. And about a month later, I'm up in the area. I'm like, "Fuck it, I'll call her up." And she invited me over to her dorm room. And so we went over and we're talking, and I'm like, "Hey, you're dating one of my linemen. There's just no way in hell, I'm not going to violate that bro code."
No.
But we're having a conversation, and I told her point blank, I said, I was so afraid to even approach you to ask you out on a date that I shook at every moment I thought about even approaching you. And she said one line to that 30 years later that still kills me. "I wish you would have."
Oh, shit.
Yep.
So don't be afraid of the answer.
Mhm.
No.
Yeah.
It will
More-
happen more than you'll get the yes.
Yep.
More importantly, the lesson to take from that is the fear is not as bad as the regret.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
100%. 30
Yep.
years
Right.
later, I still
You never
regret
know
it.
what could have happened. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. She was. I won't lie. I'm a huge nerd. Yes, I played hockey. Yes, I play music. But I'm also a big D&D nerd.
Oh, yeah.
And
Same.
she's 5 foot, long black hair, blue eyes. She's like the quintessential elf.
Ooh.
So,
D&D elf, not Tolkien elf.
right.
And certainly not Rings of Power elf.
No, thank God. No, so
Every elf is Vulcan.
she was like the living embodiment of what I would have envisioned and in a perfect world thought, "Oh man, this would be amazing to see if there's anything there." And I was too scared of the possibility of no. Instead of just saying, "Screw it. If it's a no, okay, I have many other people I could go to."
Yeah.
Well, on that note, we're going to get to a little bit of the chat. If there's any questions you guys want to ask, or we'll find them before we close out the evening, which, by the way, this has been a fun episode. I'm loving this.
Yeah.
It's fun. It feels well more professional. Not saying that we were, but it takes guys a little bit, yeah. Oh, yes.
Where's my ascot?
I wish I would have. I wish I could have got here earlier, man. I would have.
No, it's all good. The fact that you're here, man, it's good. So,
if I might, I've got something that I did that I've learned in my 50 years on this planet. A girl is going to like you from the start or not, and they're not going to change their minds. So if you get into that friend zone, don't waste your time and energy. If you pursue it and she's not interested, chances are she's not going to be interested in you. They know from the first 10 minutes if they want to be with you or not. And so you're not going to change their minds, in my experience. So if you've approached and they say no, don't pursue it. Move on to something, else that might prove to be good for you. Don't waste your energy, man. That's
And-
my
And keep in
experience.
mind how you deserve to be treated too. I see a lot of guys that are they're happy that they've made some progress and like, well, I asked this girl out and she said yes. That's great, but that doesn't mean they're allowed to treat you any which way they want.
No.
You have to keep your, and because I made this mistake several times when I was young. I let myself get treated like crap because I was just so, wow, she said yes. Yeah, it's great. Like, yeah, but it wasn't. It was like, and I spent too much time in certain situations that I shouldn't have because I didn't tell myself that I deserved to be treated better. So
Right.
keep that in mind.
And they won't respect you if you don't command respect. They will not respect you.
I know.
And that won't last.
I know we'll do an episode about friend zone and how guys can handle that, and it'll be pretty good. I'll work on that one pretty soon. But let's get into the chat before we close this evening out. I wonder. All right, Christopher Dominguez. I hope I'm pronouncing the last name right. I'm terrible with names, by the way.
That looks
I
right.
wonder how you deal with obsession of one person you have a crush on. Now, does that mean, does the person have has an obsession over you while you're having a crush? Because if that's the case, run away. I remember there's this one girl, she made a pillow, like, she was obsessed over me. She had pillows of me, shirts of my picture. I don't know how probably Facebook. That's what it is. Fuck you, Facebook.
Wow.
But she was insanely crazy. Like outside of her home and everything, she seemed normal. But once you like hung out at her house with her family, she was completely Coco for cuckoo brains.
Red flag.
And yeah, I was like, I'm out. See you guys. It's that gut reaction. So dealing with a person who's obsessed with you, if you have a crush, and the other way around. Oh,
No bueno.
so I guess like if you have a crush on someone and you're obsessed with them, is that right? I think.
Yes.
That's kind of when you're in middle school and high school. I think that's a learning experience for me. It's kind of like you kind of learn from that, and I knew when a girl said yeah, and
No, that's actually not. It was way beyond that for a lot of people. I've known like people in their 40s that get like this. My father had some great advice for a situation like this. He said, if you see some girl out there and she's absolutely gorgeous and like you can't think straight around her, picture her sitting on a toilet and she'll become very real to you, very human.
That's the weirdest advice.
Well,
but accurate.
But yeah, but
That
this is the thing. So if
sounds-
like number one, you have to understand that obsession is never good. Look for flaws. Look for things that are like you won't want to because it's the old Percy Sledge song, when a man loves a woman. Like a man in love will never see a woman's faults until afterwards.
Yep.
And I always have this thing that I say that like that when a man falls in love with a woman, you can run into her 20 years later and you'll feel something. It could be, it could still be love. It could be anger. It could be, you'll feel something. A woman could spend 15 years of her life with a guy, be head over heels in love with him. And when it stops, it's like there was an amputation there and it never happened.
Yep.
It's the strangest thing.
Yep.
I don't understand it, but that's just the way it is.
We love differently.
Yes. Yeah, very true. But if you have an obsession, you have to recognize obsessions are not healthy. They're not going to benefit you in the long run. You have to look at people as an equal. So if you find yourself feeling like this, what you want to do is you want to take a step back and start looking at things like, well, why am I feeling this way? Why is that? There's got to be something. I have to look at it realistically. I have to look at things where it's going to be. If I don't look at it realistically, it's never, ever, ever going to end well. You're going to be abused. You're going to be disrespected. You're going to be taken for granted. There's got to be equality in a relationship. There's got to be a level of mutual respect, and there's got to be a level of mutual admiration. Anything that is one-sided is not going to be good, and ultimately you're going to kill the thing that you want. So that's what I would do. I would look at things like, look for the humanity in someone. You may have a crush on someone. Like look for things that they do, the way they treat other people and things like that. You'll find a flaw, and then just just be aware of it. And believe me, I've done this. There are things, and everybody that's been through this a few times will understand as soon as I say this. You're with somebody and you're like, they do the cutest thing, and 5 years later you're like, oh my God, you remember that girl? She used to do it. Oh my God, yeah.
Oh God, yeah.
I can't believe that I found that attractive. Like, what the hell was I thinking? And that little thing that was so cute at one point will be like, oh Jesus. It's like finding your old pictures and you had like a mullet or bell bottoms or something like that. It's it's one of those things. So yeah, look at them as real people. If you find you're obsessed about something, you need to back off a little bit, give yourself some space, and look at things realistically, because that's what an obsession is. It's not a realistic outlook. It's not healthy. So.
Any other chats? Going once, going twice. Sold to the little guy in the corner. I don't know where that is. But let's go around the corner and you can give a quick thought of tonight's show, or you can plug in your channel or whatever you want to do. I'll leave it up to you guys. Comic book relief, Mike.
Well, as many of the chat might know, I am the Comic Relief Crusader. And every Tuesday we got Titillating Tuesdays, where we just chat about whatever I feel like just chatting about. So, posting videos away, and just like many other people, just trying to save pop culture from the corruption and the woke that happen to be prevalent in our society today. And yeah, just sometimes chatting about just really nerdy, really cool, really fun stuff.
Canadian Spider-Man. I know you were on for a very short time, but I'm glad that you stopped by. It's good to see your glorious face. Anything you want to plug in or thoughts?
Absolutely, yeah. I have a YouTube channel myself, Canadian Spider-Man. You can find me pretty easily. And I'm in Canada currently for a family reunion for 10 days, but I'm back in Mexico for the next 4 months. And I've been putting a lot of videos up. They don't take a lot of time. They're 1 minute to 5 minutes of life in Mexico. Piñata smashing, the beach scenes, just the villages. We've taken drives through the countries with my buddies.
Oh, nice.
And, Christmas, New Year's Eve fireworks were insane. A firework landed 10 feet in front of me. It malfunctioned. It was insane. So I got awesome. Quite a few. I got a bunch of videos. I travel. That's all I do is I travel. I work and then I travel. So I've got a lot of travel videos from all over the world there. So please feel free to check that out on my channel right here on YouTube.
Awesome.
And I
rub it in.
Yep. Hey, man, I don't own a house. I have no real possessions because I've spent all my money on travel. So it's a sacrifice. But and I don't do. I'm regularly in the chat with Andy on Doomcock's Friday night streams and Wednesday night streams. But I put up a lot of travel videos. So please check me out.
Nice. I'm definitely going to check this out.
I gotta say, I really miss your fireside chats during the wintertime, Canadian
Oh,
Spider-Man. So
thank you, man. Thanks.
I miss them. I miss
Thanks.
them. I miss them. I miss them, and I want to see more
Thank
of them.
you. When I get back to Canada in end of April, because I can't have fires in Mexico, but when I get back to Canada in April, I'll start them again. Absolutely.
Nice.
Thank
Right
you.
on, bud. Right
Thanks,
on.
man.
Just a minute. Those are all green screen background. I'm just kidding.
No.
Andy, anything you want to plug in or thoughts?
I'm against thoughts. They're bimbos. And oh, the other thing. No, I'm good. Just thanks for having me here. Thanks for everybody in the chat. Thanks for stopping by and listening to us ramble on about these things. And hopefully it was helpful to some people.
Yeah. Jeff, anything you want to plug in or?
So, as the, I guess, non-YouTube host here, I do a podcast every other Sunday night called Lost Wanderer, where I talk about space launches and science on klrnradio.com. And the opposite weekend on Saturdays, I do a podcast called Asgard North, where basically I look at D&D, mostly from the past years, but I'm also, I've reviewed Rings of Power there, and I'm also discussing OGL updates and things of that nature. So come on over, visit, and maybe you'll find other things on the network that you'll like.
Nice. And go. Anything you want to plug in?
Well, if anybody's interested in what we're doing on the show when we're doing it, or you just want to chit chat or whatever, just see the Twitter handle I got up on screen. Other than that, thank you everybody for coming, viewers and panelists alike. I appreciate it.
You can catch us every Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific time until about 8 p.m. Pacific time. And yeah, I'm hoping to start doing little I know I did a lot of destroying of action figures and stuff in the past. I'm hoping to bring those back. If you guys want to chime in and ask me what to destroy, just send me a DM or send out a tweet on Twitter. You can find me on Twitter at Rancor Steve, or here, of course, at Rancor Steve. But it's been great. This is an awesome show, and it's always improving, always evolving into something better. So I'm glad to have everyone on here. Mike, Canadian Spider-Man, Andy, Jeff, the GOAT. You guys are awesome. So yeah, we'll be here next week with a new conversation, different topics, more jokes, more fun, busting each other's balls, So you guys have a great weekend. I'll see you guys here probably on Wednesday, if not here on Thursday. So you guys have a good weekend.
All right, good night, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks, Steve, for having me.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And see you in Doomcock's chat too.